Good evening, everyone. Welcome to tonight's special edition of Commandant's Corner. Tonight's special edition is actually Meet the Candidates. We have 4 outstanding candidates running for the National Judge Advocate position. All of these candidates are going to be answering questions that have been pre-screened by the National Junior Vice, and I'm going to deliver those questions. And at this time, I'm going to ask my National Commandant, Johnny Baker, to just open with some welcoming remarks, please, sir.
Thank you, Victoria, and thank you for all that came on here that shows interest in your own detachments and making a difference in our Marine Corps League by electing your next national officers to National Judge Advocate. That's really an important process where without you making these decisions, being informed of what these candidates represent is very important. When I was running for NJA about 8 years ago, my first thing out of my mouth would be, look at me as your next commandant. So besides being an NJA, look at this person as your next commandant. Sometimes we're just a heartbeat away from being the national commandant. So not only look at them as an NJA, but look at them to being your national commandant. That's very important that you think about that and process that. Again, thank you, Victoria. Thank you all for being here. I wish this room was overflowed with people, that we had to turn people away, but it's not. But it is a good night, and I hope you all get a lot out of this. Thank you, Victoria.
Thank you very much, sir. On the recorded session, National Junior Vice, do you have some opening comments on this recorded session?
You know, I think in 2019, when we did this in person at Billings, Montana, I think it gave the membership some direct engagement with the candidates. In my case, it was 3 of us. In this case, it's 4 of us. And I think it's very important to try to make a decision and quantify your decisions through some of these questions here. And I look forward to seeing some of the answers to the questions. I'm just as curious as everybody else, and let's get on with it. I'm good.
Thank you very much, National Senior Vice Griffin. I just noticed you're on board. Opening remarks, sir.
Hi, Victoria. I think we're fortunate, as opposed maybe to some of the other veteran service organizations, that we have 4 very worthy candidates running for Judge Advocate on our national staff. So I wish all of them good luck, and I hope we have a very good night tonight. I know we will. Thank you again.
Thank you all very much for being here. We have 54 on board. Maybe some people will creep in a little bit later on. Take this information back to your detachments, your departments, your divisions, all of these answers coming in. I had all of the candidates raise their hand. They will stay on the upper left-hand corner of your screen. And it looks like the first one up, and I'm going to go in order as I see them and then do a shuffle from there. Bob Zilch, you are first up with my first question. Not picking on you at all. You just happen to be the first one to get your hand raised. So,
okay,
here we go. Before I actually start with the questions, let's do a round robin. And we're going to start with Bob Zilch in 1 to 3 minutes. Just quickly, anything that's not covered in your bio, we have shared. And just introduce yourself and what you're all about.
I guess the one thing I really want to get across to people is my level of commitment to the league when I take a job. One of the things I noticed as a department commandant and other department officers is that we get spread so thin. We're all involved detachment-wise, department-wise, division, national, various committees or offices. And what you end up doing is spending a little bit of time here, a little bit of time there, just kind of trying to just get the minimum done. With me, I approached it a little differently. My commitment is 100% to the top job I have, and that's why I go after it. I am retired, and I intend to treat this just like a full-time job. This is my job, is to be the best office holder I can, in this case, the National Judge Advocate, and whatever comes next. I think my qualifications speak for themselves as far as my league involvement, my professional acumen, the experiences that I have. So I'm not going to belabor all that stuff. You can read the bio. But if I was going to leave you with anything, is that I'm 100% in on the league, and that's the way I approach it, and that's what I intend to do in the future.
Thank you very much, sir, for your opening remarks. We're going to pick up Scott Westerfeld next. Same question.
Hey, thank you, Victoria, and good evening. I wrote a little something here, but I'll try and sound as natural as Bob just did. It really is a pleasure to be with all of you this evening to get a chance to meet with each of us who are running for this office of National Judge Advocate. If I were in the audience looking on this evening, I'd be trying to answer the question, who are these 4 candidates and which one do I think I should support as the next JA? For me this evening, I'm sitting here looking out upon all of you, wanting to convey to you the answer to the obvious question, why do I want to be the National Judge Advocate? Got several reasons. First, I think I have all the skill sets required to do an outstanding job as your JA. I have a strong background in writing, interpreting, and implementing orders and giving advice to folks in high places. I had a long tour of duty and active duty in the Marine Corps, and my last sets of duties were advising all the way to the Commandant. Since I've been a leaguer, I've found myself being sought after and asked to do things at the department, division, and at the national level. So I think I'm equipped to do that. Second, I got a servant's heart, just like the rest of you. You know, I spent the 37 years in the Corps, and I loved it, and I came back for another year later. And so I ran around trying to find a place to plug in my umbilical cord because nobody out there spoke my language and understood, and they seemed to be out of step. But I found the league, and umbilical cord fit just perfect. I love what I have done with the league. You know, when I was introduced to the Marine Corps League, it really became a natural fit. And so obviously my progression through the leadership in the Marine Corps League seemed for me to be natural. And one of the things I really admire about the League is the devotion and the service attitude of our veterans to those that are veterans, those who are our youth, and in our communities. And I just hope that I'll be able to continue to serve you as the next JA. But if not, regardless, I'm going to continue to serve in the future till I'm not able to serve any longer. Thank you, all of you, for what you do to make the League a really great American success story.
Thank you very much, Scott, for those opening remarks. Bruce, you're up. Dave, go ahead and stand by. You're on deck. Go ahead, Bruce.
All right, good evening, everyone. First of all, I want to thank National for putting the Zoom meeting together. It was a really great idea. As stated, I am Bruce Rockfelt, past Mideast Division National Vice Commandant from the Department of North Carolina. I am 54 years old. As far as my professional life, I am very proficient with computers as a production planner in my personal life. Very proficient in Microsoft Office, Adobe products, and other various software. And I'm versed in Robert's rules and keep a hard copy with me at all times at meetings. It's always good to have. I was a reservist in the Corps, serving from 86 to 90, and I was a cook. So I know a lot of people were really excited about the chow that they had back in those days. In that time, I received my National Defense and Good Cooking medals. I joined the League as a charter member of the Lance Corporal Allen D. Lamb Detachment 1209 in September of 2005, and have served almost 18 years in the League now. I'm proud to have served as a detachment and department commandant, as well as have served at the national level as protocol officer and bylaws committee member, which I am still a member of today. As many of you know, I proposed to my then girlfriend Stephanie last August, and I'm proud to say that we were married on November 20th, and we couldn't be any happier. I'm looking forward to hearing your questions and sharing my thoughts with you as we kick off the meeting tonight with Meet the Candidates. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your opening remarks, Bruce. David, go ahead and introduce yourself, please.
Good evening, David Porter from Massachusetts. I am currently the New England Division National Vice Commandant. Been National Vice Commandant for 5 years, and my term is coming to an end this August, and it's actually pretty exciting. So I can look back and actually I can say that I did do a job well done, and I am proud of how my division functioned, how my staff Rose, and I am extremely excited looking to see my staff take the New England division to the next level. But in that said, though, is that the past 5 years been an amazing ride and quite an experience. A little more about me, though, as well, is I'm 50 years old. I am currently a police officer up in Cambridge, Massachusetts. I have under 5 years left so I could retire. And I believe my work will definitely become extremely handy coming in as a JA. But my goal is not to stop there as well. My ambition is to become the national commandant down the road if I am elected. I believe I got a great listening skills, which is extremely important because I found out through a few interactions at the direction from the commandant is to handle some situations. And the biggest thing, the complaints I heard is actually listening to people. Also, the other big quality I believe have is get involved with everyone, including everyone, having everyone involved as one big happy family instead of having these little diverse separations. I believe my job's not done. As I look back as being the NVC for the New England division, my heart and belief is I believe I have a lot more work to be done to strengthen the league, bring more younger generations in, to work on a few other projects that I've been attached to. So probably in a nutshell, I don't want to talk too much because I know there's a lot of questions. But again, everyone, thank you for being here. We got attendance of 57. Like it would have been nice to have 100 people in here, the room filled. So, but it is what it is. We'll adapt and run with it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, we're going to start the pre-screen questions that actually came via email to the National Junior Vice. At this time, I'd like to ask that you keep your answers to 2 minutes. It could be 2 seconds because some of these questions, actually, I've heard the answers already as you've introduced yourself. Okay, we're going to pick on Scott at this time. You're first on deck. Question number 1. How many years have you been in the Marine Corps League and what is your age?
Scott is 73 years old, and I have been in the league since 2007.
Thank you, sir. Bruce, same question. Everybody's going to be asked the same question. If you
Yes,
need it
so-
repeated, just let me know.
Well, I'm 54 years young, and I joined the league in 2005, so working on 18 years in the league now.
Thank you, sir. Dave Porter.
I am 50 and I was in the league since 2005. Sorry,
Thank you.
scratch that 6. I'm sorry, 6.
2006. Thank you, sir. Bob Zills, last candidate on the same question.
I am 67 years young and I joined the league in 2003.
Very good. Thank you all for that answer. We're going to start with Bruce Rackfield on question number 2. What do you see as the most important item facing the league? How would you address said item?
I would think that the most important item of the league right now is probably membership. We need to have members in order to have a league, in order to have growth, in order to be here, in order to keep our legacy going. We know that it's dropped over the years. We needed to come up with fresh ideas that will help entice members that want to join. We are certainly looking for all Marines, all FMF corpsmen, and all FMF chaplains to join. But in my mind, we need to concentrate on like the 40-plus-year-old age groups. These are the people that have the stability in their jobs. They have kids that are older now and don't consume all of their time, and they're looking to get involved in some sort of group or organization. There's no reason why we can't be over 100,000 strong with our membership. This goal needs to be a group effort, and the burden of the membership growth is dependent on every member. So it's not just me, or it's not just the junior vice, it is everybody. So that's what I think is the most important thing.
Thank you very much. Dave Porter, same question. If you need it repeated, just let me know.
No, my biggest thing is yes, membership is, but I think it go a little more deeper. I think we need to be more of unity, come together, have meetings, more positive, work on the lower structure of trying to motivate the detachments to try to be one big happy family, to try to entice the younger generations, which is we got to start adapting. Try to include everyone, not kind of be extremely regimental and griping in meetings, is to try to stay away from negativity and just stay with the positive and run with the positive.
Thank you very much, David. Bob Zilt, same question.
Well, I think it's going to be three unanimous votes for membership so far. One of the advantages I've had working on the budget committee for the last 8 years is simply that I get to see the numbers every year, and we've got to justify different lines in the budget. Membership has been stagnant somewhere between 50,000 and 65,000 members. You know, personally, I think we even ought to go higher than 100,000 as a target. There's no reason in the world that Marines should not look upon the Marine Corps League as the premier veteran service organization for and serving Marine veterans. And that's got to be our target. The big question for me is, what's the bust between generations? Because we just don't see the generations that came behind us, behind the Vietnam era veterans. There's some of them, there are some members that are from that generation, but not nearly as many. And the big question for me has always been, these veterans are getting involved in other organizations. You know, what are they offering them that we're not offering? You know, what needs are they filling that we're not filling? And to me, that's the kind of approach we've got to take, is we got to take a step back and ask why, and then figure out what we need to do, what programs we need to adapt. And frankly, I think we got the programs, but I think a large part of it is just the difference in generations. And so maybe it comes down to, instead of trying to drag young members into our detachments, we're full of old farts, literally sitting around and complaining, maybe we need to be looking at creating new detachments instead. You know, Pennsylvania's lost 13 detachments, you know, since I became the department paymaster 10 years ago. 13. I know departments that don't even have 13 and never have had 13, but they're successful in creating new detachments. So I think that different kind of approach to membership, you know, than the classic one where you carry around an application in your pocket and you push it, you know, membership and retention down into detachments. I think we got to rethink this whole thing and do something a little bit differently. And that's the way I see it as our biggest problem. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Last one, same question. Scott, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm looking at something different. And I think training is probably, in my view, one of the key items. Membership is tough. Membership's been like, ever since I joined the league, it's always been about recruiting and retention. It's like we have a bucket that we're filling up with a water hose, and at the bottom there's a hole. It just comes in and goes out. No one's really solved that problem yet. But one of the things I'm doing as a department commandant in Florida is trying to get around and visit every one of my 50 detachments, one of their meetings. And the thing that I see too often are people that are not trained in positions. For whatever reason, we have a really good training program in the spring and the fall, but twice a year is not enough. And we change leaders in detachments every year, potentially every 2 years. And just as soon as we train one set of leaders and we feel like we're okay, they're done and they're out, and here's a new set of leaders. And if you're not always going around and visiting and checking, they fall into disarray. And I've found that out. We got 50 detachments, and all of a sudden I'm finding 4 or 5, and they've got major problems. And the problems are all around. They don't know what they should be doing. And that's strictly training. And we have to have perpetual training. You know, on active duty, you would go to NCO school if you became an NCO, or you'd go to staff NCO school. We had MCI courses that you could study and do at your own self-paced text. I think if we developed something similar to that, so that new leaders coming in get their paymaster book, they get their junior vice commandant, and they work their paragraphs. At the end, they get questions and they get the answers. And at the end, maybe we should have the district vice commandants give them their final exam, so that it draws district vice commandants to saddle up next to commandants and their detachments, so we do a better job at keeping detachments alive and well.
Thank you very much, sir. Okay, we're going to start question number 3 with candidate number 4, Dave. Dave Porter. Same question will go to all 3 candidates with a 2-minute maximum, excuse me. Number 3, what do you see as the number 1 issue facing the judge advocate position, and how would you address this?
I think the biggest issue, what comes down to is there's a lot of ego that's at the door, and people can't get along, and they bicker back and forth. And they're missing the mission statement. They're missing that individuals' personalities need to be set aside and worry about the biggest picture. It's about the league and other members. So I think also educating the commandants is to try to nip the bickering in the beginning. But obviously, there's still going to be different issues. So just following the rules, following the policies, the bylaws. If someone does screw up, you got to pay attention to how you perform. You got to pay attention on submitting stuff on time. You got to pay attention on listening to people, and I think that's the biggest one, is listening. If you're not listening, you're going to miss a lot of stuff. So to try to educate the department and department judge advocates, or the detachment judge advocates, is to listen. But I mean, there's always going to be 1 or 2 people we know that wants to buck the system, so they'll have to go through the whole process, and it stinks. But again, try to stay away from negativity and try to enforce and encourage positiveness as a leader. So it is kind of simple in one aspect. I mean, you don't want to hopper or hinder on the negativity. So there's always going to be 1 or 2 bad apples. It is what it is, and just try not to let them affect the rest of the body.
Thank you very much, Dave. Same question to Bob Siltz.
What a good question. As Dave was talking, I was just sitting back and thinking, of the detachments that I've worked with in the last 10 years, from the perspective of various positions, just how ignorant, and I have to use that word, it's a harsh word, but ignorance is different than stupidity. Ignorance is easily fixed. And the way you fix ignorance is training and education and information. But there has to be a willingness, and there has to be receptivity on the part of the person being trained. And what I found many times in dealing with our detachments is that people do want that information. They do want to be instructed in how to do it. They need to be worked with and mentored and tutored. And too often we back the truck up to the edge of the detachment building and tip the truck, and all kinds of stuff comes out. In government, they call those things unfunded mandates. When they, down from the higher level of government, you're told you will do this and you will do that. And a lot of times that's exactly what we do. Now, the judge advocate position is no different. The problem is, I spent the last couple of days, getting ready for this, looking through chapter 9, and I know Ben Ciro, who was one of the key authors of chapter 9, very well. And Ben, God bless him, served in the JAG Corps. That is probably the most complicated section in any bylaws I've ever read. Okay, and I'm coming at it from a point of view of being an engineer for almost 40 years and dealing with specifications and documents all the time. And that is one complicated piece of work. So if you say to a new department judge advocate, or even a new national judge advocate, the office we're seeking, here it is, here's the book, go off and you got all the information you need without any kind of instruction or mentoring. We're setting ourselves up to fail. So I think this is one time I think I'm going to agree with a couple of these other candidates and just say, look, we've got to do a better job teaching Information is what they need. We need to set the example. It goes without saying that some of these old cadres we've got in our detachments just don't want to get along. Okay. But I can tell you from my experience, by listening to them, as Dave said, and talking to them and working through their issues, you can bring them around. You know, I'm not talking about the one exception. I'm talking about the center group in the bell curve. We'll get those people and we'll get those on board. So, you know, to me, that's what way I see. It's not, unfortunately, it's not a simple answer, but that's how I see the biggest challenge for this position. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Hey, Scott, you're up. Same question.
Yeah, thank you. Great remarks. I just look at myself all the time like I'm just a plain old slug like everybody else out there. I got a little education, but I'm not the smartest egg. And Bob was talking about folks, you know, that wrote these things. They're pretty smart, legalistic kind of people. And so when we're trying to read those things out here at the detachment and department levels and trying to make head or tails of it, it can be difficult. One of the things I think that we should try to do, and I guess we do it every convention, is, you know, we have a lot of bylaw changes, but if we're doing changes, we should write stuff with clarity. We need to write stuff with the individual Bubba out there so that they understand without the legalese and gobbledygook of what the heck does that mean. I cannot tell you the number of conversations I've been in with people at the national level and elsewhere on just what this means. So I think that's a job that whoever gets the bill is going to constantly be asked to interpret. But it would be a big help if, as we sit in these positions, that we write with clarity so that the common man can read just what the heck we're supposed to do and implement.
Thank you very much, Scott. Bruce, final candidate for the same question, please.
Sure. I think the number one issue with the J position is that there's a lack of time to do positive things. There's a lot of priority that's given, and I've heard in the past national judge advocates in their reports and their speeches that they're basically bogged down with grievances and hearing boards. And obviously, a lack of training leads to issues with grievances and hearing boards. So training is important, but there's always going to be these side issues, right? So I think in part, every time that I hear national judge advocates say that we've got hearing boards and grievances to deal with, they're not doing things that are positive and productive to move our detachments and departments forward, such as training and really working with the detachments and the department levels to make sure that their administrative duties are done on a monthly and an annual basis. So I think in some aspects, it seems like the national judge advocate is overwhelmed with the 5% of the stuff that really doesn't need to be there and the 95% of the stuff that is positive and good for our league. It almost, in my opinion, it almost seems like there almost needs to be an assistant to help with this, because one person is not capable, does not seem to be capable to do everything that's necessary to that job and to promote the positiveness for the Marine Corps League. So that's what I would say, is that we're not in this position yet. None of us are. And I don't think with all the training and that you might have at a detachment level or a department level, nothing really prepares you for a national level. You can have a little bit of understanding, but I'm sure obviously the scope is broader, right? Because it's nationwide. So in my opinion, I think the number one issue with the J position is that they're overwhelmed and they need assistance and help in order to maintain and manage some of the projects that may be delved out to that person, because without the help, you're really spinning your wheels and you're not doing anything productive in the terms of promoting the mission of the league.
Thank you very much, Scott. Okay, we're going to go back to candidate number 1, Bob Ziltz, for question number 4. Question number 4 reads, what Marine Corps League detachment, department, division, or national positions have you held?
Okay, let me just start out with the detachment level positions. I have been the paymaster, the chaplain, the junior vice, the commandant. And I've run a couple of different projects, so you can call that a committee assignment. At the department level, I've been the paymaster, spent a significant amount of time as paymaster, the senior vice commandant, the commandant, and a committee chair. At the division level, I've been the division paymaster in the Northeast Division. National level, I've been the chairman. I've been on the budget committee for 8 years and chairman the last 4. And I think that's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Scott, you're up. Same question.
I think I've been doing this travel to hit all of my 50 detachments, and I find myself helping each detachment, a little thing here and a little thing there, which is what we all should be doing as we go around. If you see a problem, you sit down and fix. I had a detachment recently. I had to sit down after they were done with their meeting in 15 minutes. I had to sit down and hold school on the whole realm of the ritual when you conduct a meeting. But if I were to zero in on just one item on what I've helped, I'd say the thing that I feel like I helped the most on was last year's national convention. You know, we got a second chance after the pandemic went through to hold our convention, and to put together this convention and put together a first-class team to allow us to meet once again as a national organization and group. I think that was probably the hardest work personally that I've done in a long time. Most of it was just pure, unadulterated leadership of getting yourself a staff that was so good at the things that they did that they were like heat-seeking missiles, shoot and forget. They would just get the job done. And then as the moment arrived to execute, we were well established and were able to pull it off. I always feel like having been able to see so many people to come up and say thank you and to shift it to the guys that did all the work. But I don't think I felt like I've been a helper to that degree in a very, very long time. And as you know, when you do these things, it's an absolute pleasure. And so it certainly was my pleasure and a very humble experience as well.
Okay, thank you, sir. But I am going to repeat the question as it was not answered. Bruce and David, please pay attention. Question number 4, read again. What Marine Corps League detachment, department, division, or national positions have you held? Thank you for your comments, Scott, but I'll give you a few moments to actually answer that question as it's read.
Well, it is a position as a national committee. The host committee works for the national committee chairman. And so I feel what I've done was a help to that national committee chairman.
Thank you very much, sir. Same question, Bruce Rackfeld.
Sure. I've held the position of detachment commandant. That was from 06 to 08. Department adjutant from 07 to 11. And I picked up department commandant after that from 11 to 13. I was assistant division vice commandant for the Mideast Division from 13 to 17, and held the position of national vice commandant for the Mideast Division from 17 to 19. I also held various positions at national, such as assistant and protocol officer. A lot of people affectionately called me AV boy for a little while there because I was helping out with the electronics in the past, trying to get those set up. And of course, on the National Bylaws Committee, which I'm proud to be on as well now.
Thank you, Bruce. David, same question, final.
It all started, I left the room at attachment meeting, came back, everyone started clapping and said, welcome you to the junior vice. So I had no training, but as the years gone by, hit the junior vice, made a detachment commandant, judge advocate for the department for a little stint, then junior vice, And then from junior vice, I became department commandant. I was also the assistant national vice commandant. And then for the past 5 years, I've been the national vice commandant for the New England division.
Thank you very much. And that concludes 4 questions. We're up to question number 5, and we're going to start with Scott Westerfeld. This is going to be a very easy question for everybody. Are any of our candidates an attorney?
No.
No for Scott. Bruce?
I play one on TV, but no, not professionally.
Thank you, Bruce. Dave Porter?
Negative.
Negative, Dave Porter. Bob Sills?
No, they would throw me out and take my engineering away if I ever did that.
Thank you, Bob. Okay, we're now going to start with candidate number 3, Bruce Rackfeld. Question number 6. Okay, regarding the national bylaws, are there any that you believe need to be removed, added, or updated, and why? Please stay to a 2-minute limit.
Okay, so this is one of my little geek moments that I can talk about. I actually spent the time reading the 22 revised bylaws, and myself personally, I read all 45 pages, and within 31 of the 45 pages, I found about 160 grammatical, editing, and formatting errors that I would love to see corrected. You're going to see things in there like terms like assistant national vice commandant. There is no such thing as that. There's an assistant division vice commandant. And you see a lot of these words being flipped back and forth. So I've actually edited this copy, sent it into the current National Judge Advocate and the National Bylaws Committee for their consideration and proofreading for them to consider, so that we could discuss possibly getting these updated and making them look obviously more consistent verbiage, but even more professional as well.
Thank you, Bruce. Same question to Dave Porter.
As of right now, no. It's pretty much a living contract that keeps always changing. So, I mean, I leave it up to the body on the floor that want to change things. So me personally, I have nothing right now that wants to change anything.
Thank you very much, Dave. Same question to Bob Sills.
That's a good question. One of the things I would like to do is to do a little bit better job indexing, because what I've found over probably the last 4 years was that requirements for a particular, like for example, membership requirements might actually be in 2 different sections, one in the bylaws and one in the APs. And for my committee in particular, there's 3 requirements and they're in 3 different sections. And if you don't know to go look in all these places, it makes it a little bit difficult. That's not really a change, but that is some vehicle to help us navigate the documents a little bit better than we are able to do now. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Bob. Scott Westerfeld, same question.
Yeah, I like what Bob just said, because I've been flailing around here last couple of days with 2 issues, and I hate that I have to go over here to read about something. For instance, the Marine of the Year National Award submission. If you look in the awards enclosure, it speaks about the award, but it doesn't tell you what to do. And it would seem to me that if you found the Marine of the Year award, you ought to know everything there on how to submit it, and et cetera. And I remembered, I too, like the rest of my friends here, have been reading everything like a madman. And I discovered that it's listed under the duties of the Marine of the Year Society. And then it talks about putting it has to come only from the detachment. It's got to be put in an envelope and certain inscription, and then put another and then sent. But why isn't it all in the same place? And so I think we could do a whole lot better. Again, I take myself back to being the normal guy on the street. I just would like for it to be easy. One of the things, I wouldn't take anything out. I like the progression on how things were written in the bylaws. They start out talking about the national leadership and the Board of Trustees. Then it talks about the national staff. Then it goes to the division and right on down like it should in the subsidiaries. And so I think as a time-tested document, it's just that we find places in it that we could do a better job at.
Thank you very much, Scott. Okay, this is a quite lengthy one. We're going to start with candidate number 4, Dave Porter. To all candidates, I'll read it as slow as possible. At any time, you can ask me to repeat this question. The position can be a 7-day-a-week job between rulings, grievances, and charges onto ridiculous questions, and the necessary research to properly deal with and answer all questions. With your current civilian position, will you have the time and will you put in the necessary time to handle these issues in a timely manner? First answer, Dave Porter, please.
I believe that's an easy question. Actually, I already sat on a national hearing, and it didn't affect my job, and my job didn't affect my position as the jurisdictional judge advocate. So I wouldn't have taken the job as NVC if I known my job would have affected the league. Me being a police officer, my time's very flexible. And also being the NVC the past 5 years, attending numerous meetings, attending numerous conventions, attending modern day Marines. I was always there 100%. So my time being a police officer did not affect my role as being involved on the Board of Trustees. And that, which now after COVID was extremely more, technology brought us up, and we probably had numerous Zoom meetings, probably once a month, sometimes twice a month. And these Zoom meetings went over an hour or 2 hours. So no, would not affect my role.
Thank you very much, Dave. Bob Zilt, same question.
I think I already answered that question at the outset during the introduction. As I said then, and I'll repeat it, I am retired. I put 100% of the time needed to get the Marine Corps League jobs done. I value it and make it that much of a priority. I think I've already demonstrated that over the last 4 years, especially. And last year, I will tell you, when I was having a bout of issues with my health, that didn't slow me down. We managed to get a financial management plan done to the board for approval. The budget got done. You know, I make it a priority. So 7 days a week doesn't scare me at all. It's kind of what I expect. And frankly, it's what I'm looking for, because to me, you know, filling time with retirement, I'm not going to go out back and sit on my deck and listen to the birds chirp, you know, more than about 20 minutes in the morning with a cup of coffee. So I look forward, and I would relish the opportunity to put in that much time. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Bob. Scott, question 2.
Yeah, a really good question. I'm retired, but I'm not too retired. My hunting and fishing buddy has a term, you sit, you die. And trust me, if you're going to be in the league and all in, there's not much sitting. I think the biggest concern is on the home front. I think everybody that serves in the league and is busy has to take care that they make enough deposits in the home front account so that when you start making your Marine Corps League withdrawals, you don't go bankrupt. Because we can't do this on our own. Our wives and families and all, there's times we need to be there for them. And so we have to learn how to balance this thing out. And like I say, I'm all in and work the days necessary. I can't find myself or look at myself not working. So this is a labor of love.
Thank you very much, Scott. Bruce?
Yes, I was starting to say yes, the job is very difficult. We all know that. Nobody who is elected to this position is magically ordained with all the knowledge to know everything about the bylaws and the administrative procedures and whatnot. I mean, you're picking up where somebody else has left off. So there's a timetable that's going to be kept moving. The world doesn't stop spinning for anybody. All right. So you got to pick up where they left off. You have to be able to run at the pace that's been set. So yes, you're going to have to dedicate yourself with that judge advocate that stepped up or stepped out and work with them so that you can pick up where they left off and understand where you're at. It's a job in training. Yes, you're going to have to dedicate your time to this job. I'm no stranger to dedication as department commandant, which is certainly not a national position, but as a department position, my day started at 5 a.m. You're answering emails, you're making a couple of phone calls to people that are already up, texting each other. You've got a full day at work, at least I do. I'm coming home, I'm making phone calls at night, writing emails, getting to bed by maybe 11 o'clock at night, maybe sometimes a little bit later. It's a full-time job, and that's exactly what it is. It's got to be treated like that. You have to have a work-life, league balanced life, of course, as well. But the dedication has to be there. You're being elected to do a job. If you weren't going to put your full commitment into it, then don't put your name into the ring, because that's not what the membership needs. So the commitment has to be there. So I think that's really just where I want to sum it up. I have the time and the dedication to do this job. Yes, I do work full time. I have the ability, if I wanted to retire this November at age 55. I'd like to keep going another few years if possible. Currently, I have 33 PTO days a year. And with the way the league events are planned out every 1 to 2 years in advance, you already know what events and meetings you need to go to. So that's no problem getting those and getting that time off for that commitment for the Marine Corps League. So I agree. I'm there. I'm ready. I would not have put my name in the hat if I could not make these commitments.
Thank you very much, Bruce. We're going to move to candidate number 1 for this next question. Bob, you're up first. Do you wish to follow the bylaws to the letter, or would you quote unquote interpret them as needed?
You know, I'm tempted to give you a smart aleck answer because, you know, one of the first job requirements is to interpret the bylaws. So it's sort of built into the job requirements that there are going to be times when the situation doesn't exactly fit what's written down on paper, and you kind of have to read. And I know we've run into this at different levels and with different issues, you know, at the department level or even at division level. You know, you always are looking, okay, does this fit exactly? If it's not, what's the spirit? It's the spirit of the law and the intent of what it's trying to accomplish. You know, ultimately, we're trying to run a business and fulfill the mission and purpose of the league. Now, we always have to keep that in mind. It's not an arbitrary decision or an arbitrary interpretation. So I have to say, yeah, there are going to be times when not only are you going to have to do that, but you're required to do that. That's part of the job. So thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Bob. Scott, same question.
Yeah, I would say that's a really good answer Bob has given. I think the biggest thing when you reach those points where there's a point of discussion on how do we really look at this, I think that we shouldn't be looking at it in a bubble. So when you call on the other national officers, get their opinions. Everyone ahead of you have sat in this seat and understand it. But you know, we try to write all these rules so that we can live by them. And look at, we got 40-something changes to it coming up at the national convention because they're not perfect. They're imperfect. So I think we have to do the best we can there. And I think that we don't want to be heartless when it comes to personal situations. But I agree. Those guidelines are there. Somebody will always stick you in the eye with it. The paper says this, but I think we have to look a little bit beyond where it's called for, and that an agreement from the whole Board of Trustees feels that it's the correct thing to do.
Thank you very much, Scott. Bruce, same question.
Yes, the bylaws are there for us as a set of rules so that we can run our organization. So if at any point, to me, it's very simple. I'm going to interpret the bylaws that are going to benefit the league as a whole. I'm not going to look at it as a gray area for an individual or a small group to benefit from. That's not what we're here for. We're here for the better of the league and to push it forward. So that's the way I'm always going to look at them.
Good answer.
Thank you, Bruce. Dave?
Well, the other three already said it, but it's there to guide us. So, but I guess when the crap does hit the fan, you do have to go by certain protocol on them. So yes, it's a guideline, and hopefully the detachment or the department levels can try to keep the negativity down and try to hash it out. But at times you will have to go by what's in there, because there's a reason why they're in there, because something happened down the line. So there will be times where you do have to follow it by the letter, especially when this charge is being brought up. Other than that, we're adults. Everyone's human in here. Everyone makes mistakes. It's on how you act after you make a mistake. If you're going to be humble and apologize, but again, it's a guideline until we have to follow it by the letter.
Thank you very much, David. This time, the other questions that were pre-screened pretty much have been answered by adding on to some of the other questions. So at this time, I'd like to ask the National Junior Vice Commandant, TJ Morgan, has screened some questions that came into the chat. You have the helm, sir.
Thank you. So I've got a couple questions here from the members that are attending. And I think what I'm going to do, instead of asking these individual, I think I'll just kind of combine the two questions together because they are both relevant. And then maybe that will get us to the end here where we can have closing statements from the four candidates. And then we can go into an open, non-recorded, whatever that you have planned there. So who's up on the on base here?
We're going to start this round robin with candidate 2, Scott Westerfeld.
Okay, Scott. So this is a kind of a two-part question here is, are you willing to devote 10 years to the league? And does your wife accept your future 10-year commitment to the Board of Trustees and to the Marine Corps League?
The answer is a resounding yes on both.
Okay, we'll move to Bruce.
Okay, could you repeat the beginning of that first question, TJ? I'm sorry.
Yeah, so are you willing to devote 10 years to the league? And does your wife accept your future 10-year commitment to the Board of Trustees and the Marine Corps League?
Yes. So there's two things. I'll answer the first part of the question first. Absolutely. I'm committed for the past 18 years, and I want to keep committing myself to the league as best as I can in whatever position I can. It's been one of the best organizations I've ever been associated with, and I love it. I really do love the league. When we get together, it's a family reunion. You've heard me say that over and over again. I love to be in the league. I love to be around Marines. And as it comes to my wife, there's two things that I needed to do in order to even consider running for this position. Number one, get my wife's, and then at that point, girlfriend's, absolute okay with it, right? Because it's everything that comes into the house affects her family, and she is certainly on board with it. She not only accepts it, she's encouraged me to run for this too, actually, when we returned back from Daytona last year. So not only is she an associate member of the league, but she just submitted her life dues as a member of the league as well too. So she is committed right along with me. So absolutely, looking forward to whatever position that I am in. You have not seen the last of Bruce Rockville. So I am committed to this league.
Dave Porter.
Yes, 100%. Been committed the past 6 years and would like to continue for the next 10 years. And my girlfriend Liz has been 100% behind me as she's been coming around, traveling with me, using her vacation days. So she's 100% supporting me as well.
Okay, Bob Ziltz.
Absolutely. My wife is, we have a little different situation than the other three. My wife and I have been married for 5 years. But the interesting thing was, one of the first things I did with when I met my wife was said, hey, you got to come to the Marine Corps League detachment meeting with me. And she did that. And that was 18 years ago. And she's still with me and she's still encouraging me. So I actually think that if I didn't run and didn't make this commitment, that she would probably give me more of a hard time for not doing it than doing it, because she's been that supportive, and she's behind me 110%. I couldn't ask for better support. So I have to tell you yes to both. Thanks.
Thank you, Bob. Okay, before we go to closing statements, I would like to thank all four of you for coming on board here. This is not the end. Obviously, we got the national convention to go to. It's your time to get in division caucuses and get yourself out there and meet the membership that's there and the delegates that they carry. It's very important that you visit all of those and get your position out there. I'd like to thank Victoria for hosting this as part of an abbreviated Commandant's Corner. I think this is an important endeavor for the membership to know who is up and coming and what their positions are and their availabilities and all the finer points of each personal aspect of the league. And the National Judge Advocate position, I'm telling you, it is one of the most rewarding positions I've ever done. Plus, it's one of the most difficult positions. So it's a kind of a double edge there at the end of your tour of duty. Whoever gets elected, I'm sure that will be a job well done for one of the four of you. So at this time, we'd like to start with Bruce and then a couple minute closing statement. And then we'll go down the line to David Porter, Bob Ziltz, and Scott West. Bruce, you have the floor.
Great, thank you, TJ. Really, the bottom line is this has been a great experience for me so far. The campaign trail has been going great. I've been hitting the road since January, trying to push what my action plan, which is listen, improve, and repeat. So basically, that breaks down to listen to what the members are having problems with and challenges with performing the mission of the Marine Corps League. Take the initiative to implement changes to correct those issues that they're having and to improve on those issues. You make an SOP change, you submit it, you buy it, or you run with it. Is it working? Yes. Is it not working? Is great. Make the improvements. Keep improving. So that's one of the things I do is I'm listening and I'm writing down notes everywhere I go to try to help and improve our league. So one thing that we've all discussed here is that we know this job is not an easy one. What I bring to it is the desire to want to serve you and the motivation to want to help improve who we are as an organization. So my goal here this evening is to leave you with a better understanding of who I am and why I'm running for National Judge Advocate. And as I always say, earning your confidence is important to me. Thank you.
You're up, David.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for attending. I'm excited. Like Bruce was saying, the campaign trail has been phenomenal. Meeting new friends, traveling the country. It's been quite amazing seeing everyone though. So, but yeah, it comes down to is leadership, being positive, forward thinking, and listening to ideas and trying to strengthen the league. And my goal is to go through the chairs and try to be one of the best commandants that this league would have, but yet to go through the chairs. And I'm looking forward, if I am elected, to be the NJA, learning, listening, and traveling around and trying to solve problems. I believe my background as law enforcement will definitely help in the NJA position, not being a lawyer, but able to handle problems. I deal with the street, trying to mediate situations, and it's especially being in a part of the country requires patience. It's having the skills I have as a police officer will be phenomenal tool in my tool belt to help out, not only being the NVC for the past 5 years at the division. So, but again, I look forward to seeing as most of you as we can out in Oklahoma. Thank you.
Bob,
I
you are up.
think I got it off mute this time.
Yeah, you're good.
Okay, there's a couple things I'd like to just share. And my first thing I like to do is tip my hat to the other three candidates, because one of the things that I learned about them was we have more in common than we have differences. And to me, that's the best part of doing this, is actually getting to interact with people and getting to know each other better. And you walk away from that with a little bit more respect than you had going in, and respecting each other and caring about each other really is what the league's all about. With that said, we are different in some ways. I mean, our backgrounds are different. I think I bring some strengths that perhaps some of the other candidates don't have. One of the things, I did is part of my civilian career. I tell people I was an engineer, but when you're an engineer at the level I was, you engineer with people as much as you do anything else. There's no way I'm sitting there, I spent my career sitting in front of a drafting table. I didn't do that. There were people that were several levels below me. So I was more of a manager, people manager. So the kind of skills that I bring, are people skills and our business skills. And that's one thing we always seem to be a little bit lacking, whichever level and whatever organization I go to as part of the league. We always hear, run it like a business, but many of us don't know how. So that's the first thing. The second thing is that it goes along with that is a lot of the problems that JAs run into. I've had to fire more than my share of people. I've had employees that I've fired in the morning and have murdered people in the afternoon. And when you deal with stuff like that, life becomes very real. So a lot of the stuff we deal with, is more about getting along than it is about, committing actual real crimes. And so I've got that stuck in the background. I don't talk about some of these things very often, but it's there and it's part of who I am and the way I approach things. And the last thing I want to leave you with is, for the last 8 years, I've been part of the team that was helping to straighten things out internally, and the reason whole motivation for running is to try to finish the job, and to be part of the team that pushes this league forward, and I see this as sort of the opportunity to do that. And that's what's motivating me. So I really appreciate everybody staying on the line tonight. I don't think we lost anybody. I really appreciate that. We got the same numbers that we started with, and thank you all for spending the time, and thanks for listening to me. Thank you.
Scott, close her up.
Yeah, TJ. First, I've really enjoyed the evening. I talked to you a little earlier, or yesterday, maybe this morning. I wasn't quite sure how this was gonna flow. I thought, is this going to be a stump the dummy kind of a event? And I thought I would probably already have lost by that time, but you said no. And it has been conducted extremely well, TJ and Victoria. The questions to each person, and all the questions are really excellent questions, and I think it tested all of us very well. I looked at the 4 candidates here. Bob just talked about it. The league is really strong when it can produce 4 candidates like us. And whoever is elected, the good of the league is going to be well served, and no doubt in my mind. As I've been going around visiting detachments, it's become more and more aware. I always took a moment at the end of the meeting after I got to watch them do the whole ritual up until it was good of the league, and then I would stand up and give them a load on how they were doing, how they compared. And I always ended up, as I will tonight, thanking them, because it's one of the most humbling things to be a servant, to be elected and to be a commandant or a national vice commandant, and certainly at the national level at JA. There's some great humility there that comes with the job. And I'm always amazed if I'm given the privilege to do further service, and I certainly am tonight. I would just leave my final thoughts. all that we do in the league here is all about leadership. You know, I've got tons of it, as the other candidates. I've been practicing leadership in high places, and I started out in the pits as a fire team leader with 3 people. And so it's just great to be able to bring, I hope, what I have in my leadership bag of tricks to be the next JA. And so I appreciate that so much. And thank you once again for a really great evening.
Thank you, Scott. Sir Commandant, are you on the line? Would you like to make us some closing statements here?
Well, thank you, TJ. I'm very pleased. We started this a couple years ago, 3 years ago, I think it was, when we had the JAs coming up, and I think it's very worthwhile. I'm just a little disappointed. We only got about 57 members here, include all of us. But I think the best thing is to tell you to do is go back and talk to your departments and your detachments, see who they want to vote for. Bring out the ideas of what each of these candidates brought to the table, and elect your next national JA. And I would say elect your next commandant down the road. So should be very serious, but take this information back to your departments, your detachments, and spread the word, please. Thank you. Thank you, TJ.
Thank you, Sir Commandant. I think 57 here, but I think once this video gets pushed out to the NBCs for distribution down to the detachment level, I would hope we could get some more views, and I'm sure we will. Victoria, do you have anything to close? Are we done, or you want
On
to
the recorded session, I just like to close by telling everyone here right now, as well as those that are viewing it later, if you would like to reach any one of these candidates and cannot find their information, you could email the Public Relations Committee at publicrelations@mcleague.org, and we will forward to whatever candidate you're looking to question or get more information if you need to add on to any of these answers. On behalf of the Public Relations Committee, thank you all for this. I'm so happy you've taken the time to speak with the members that are here, as well as the dissemination that will be forthcoming. Thank you very much, sir.
Okay, I guess that's it for the Meet the Candidates for today, and I appreciate everybody coming, and we'll see you at the 100th anniversary in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma.
Thank you, Victoria, and thank you, National, for putting this event on.
Hoorah. Well
You're
done.
very welcome. Okay, at this time, I'm going to stop the recording, but before I say that, I'll close every Commandant's Corner by saying good night, Chesty, wherever you are.